Hello, Steven. How are you,
How are
my
you,
friend?
Zeb?
Very good. Guys, we have a friend and an expert here with us today, also an author of a bunch of books. I actually have two right here. Be a change champion. This makes a lot of sense because we just talked about change in one of our last episodes, so I love this. So this teaches on how to basically change within a company, within your role, how to make change happen, correct?
Yes.
And then my favorite book that you wrote is Just Be Honest. This gentleman teaches people how honest communication helps with teams. Now, I'll tell everybody what you are for me. Okay. You build and maintain high performance teams.
Yes.
Okay, and you do that amazingly. I know that everything with you is about relationships, which I love. I believe relationships are the most important thing.
Yes.
But let me challenge you. I truly believe a fish stinks from the head, okay? I truly think a lot of the problems I have in my business is because of problems I have with me, okay? How do you help teams or do you agree with me, does the fish stink from the head, and how do you help with that?
Well, first of all, I've worked with some of the best organizations and the best CEOs, best admirals and generals, best executives, period. Look at any problem and they blame themselves first, because we can change ourselves much easier than we can change other people.
Absolutely.
Now, let me just say something. A lot of people say you can't change other people, but where would we be today if the greatest leaders of our time thought that way? Gandhi, Martin Luther King, all the greatest ones said you can change people, but the way to change people is to change ourselves. And to your point, we have to look at how we lead teams. And if we look at our leadership team, we can change the entire organization.
I couldn't agree with you more. And one thing I've always believed in, when I was a follower, and hopefully today when I want to be a leader, is you only lead through example. That's the only way to lead. If it's not via example, it's not leadership. It's not going to work. So you can't ask people to do something you're not going to do. You can't tell people to do something that you are not going to be able to have someone else tell you to do, if that makes sense.
Well, it does, but I think there are three things that you have to consider when you're looking at leading by example or what you're going to do. There has to be a mindset change, a skill set change, and a sustainment change. And one of the things I found out is the reason why organizations are so unsuccessful in managing and maintaining change is they don't do the mindset change. They just work on what to do, which is the skill set. And where they really lack is sustainment, making it stick. Because we've all been through situations where, well, everything seems great and okay, we need to make these changes, and then we start to make that change, but then we slip right back. So yes, by example, but what kind of examples are we showing? It has to be a mindset change, a skill set, and a sustainment change.
Mindset, skill set, and then sustainment change.
Absolutely.
Where do you feel like most companies struggle with in those three steps?
Well, in priority order, it's those three, but I think the biggest thing that they tend to lack is mindset, but where most organizations don't even think about is sustainment. And here's the reason why. If you think about it, whenever we make a change, we can change in the moment, but then things happen and we get really stressed out and we revert back to the same old way. So this is where you probably had somebody say, Zev, I got it. I've got to change. And they do change, but then they slip right back because we don't build in the sustainment change. And that's what we do so well in organizations is we work in all three of them because all three need to happen. And if any three are lacking, it will not happen. That change will not occur.
That makes total sense. So I always think, I ask my team all the time, what governs you or anybody else? And to me, the answer is always habits.
Yes.
Habits really govern us. Habits control. You told me this too. We think we're logical beings, but we're very emotional beings.
Yes.
Things tend to happen. So How do you help companies build the right habits?
Well, by first helping them look at what mindset change are you going to do, and then building and giving them the skill set, and then building a program to have that stick, because that's what often is lacking. But the biggest problem, the number one problem, is that when we look at high-performing teams, and you could consider any two people a team, most teams are not really teams, but nobody wants to be honest about it. Most teams are really committees.
Okay.
And committees win or lose separately. A team wins or loses together.
So the difference between a committee and a team is a committee, when they win or lose it separately, it's a personal thing.
It's about me. It's about my area. It's about my silo.
Okay.
But high-performing teams have three things in common. First, when they get win and challenge together. Second, they think of the team first, position second, versus poor performing teams, they think of their position, their area, and team second. And the third area, and this is something rarely talked about, but so important, is no daylight. In other words, to the outside person looking into that team, you should see no daylight between any two people. Inside, there should be debate, healthy debate. Healthy teams have healthy debate. But to the outside, it should appear no debate. It should appear no daylight. And here's the thing. How many times have we experienced organizations where employees say, oh, I can tell that executive doesn't get along with that executive, or it's about our area and not about that area. But when you look at the leadership team, often there's so much daylight, there's gaping holes. You got to close those holes and actually show and distribute and actually execute on no daylight.
So it's almost like a parenting class, right? Like, if you're alone with your, significant other or spouse, you can argue and you can have a debate. But in front of the kids, you're one.
Absolutely.
So it's the same way with a company. Inside the company, have a healthy debate, and we do it here all the time. But to the outside world, we are one unit.
And you know why that doesn't happen? Do you know why so much is often done on the outside? It's because they lack honest communication. Mm-hmm. So when people hear me talk about honest communication, they think I'm going to go down about truth or lies, but the biggest problem is what we don't say to each other. So the big problem is when we close the door, so to speak, and the team meets, are we allowing the safety for people to speak their mind? If they can't speak their mind in the meeting, they're going to speak their mind out of the meeting. And if they speak out of the meeting, that's where the whole company and various people will start to go in various directions. In fact, you know what we found out is that's why we do these interviews with people before we actually get the team together to do these quote-unquote reboots, because people often don't feel comfortable to speak in the meetings. Now, in your organization, they do, but what I found with so many organizations, they actually don't. And actually, what's really fascinating is we train and condition people to lie to us. Here's a great example. Have you ever had somebody say, Zev, you can tell me anything. I want to hear your honest feedback. And so you start to give them honest feedback and they flip out. Mm-hmm. Next time they ask you for honest feedback, you don't go there. Mm-hmm. Well, so many executives, so many leaders, maybe by accident, they react and then people go, oh, I don't want to bring that up. So again, they don't bring it up in that meeting. So we have to create that safety for people to get that unsaid said.
I don't think so, but a lot of people see me as a bit of a very confident, threatening personality. I feel a lot of people tell me what they think I want to hear, and it annoys me. It truly, truly does, because you know that they're saying to you what you want to hear. They're not saying to you what they really feel. So how do you change that? How do I lower a little bit that threat level and make my team be a lot more comfortable of telling me things maybe I don't want to hear?
Well, two things. We have to create that emotional safety, and if we have gotten defensive, we have to apologize for that and show people we're not going to do that. So if there's things that's happened in the past, we've got to correct that. But the second thing, and rarely people think about, you have to reward honesty. Because you can get people to speak up, but if eventually we're not using what they share with us, people go, it's not worth bringing up. In fact, I get dropped into all these organizations, and sometimes people say, well, yeah, I do feel comfortable to bring it up, but it's not going to go anywhere. And that's because we lack rewarding honesty. So you have to create that emotional safety to get that going, but then you have to reward honesty.
I have to share a story with you. I sent one of my favorite teammates to do a shoot somewhere really, really far away. That person made a small mistake and they didn't pack enough batteries or whatever. Now, they could have shot whatever they shot and went home and come. I would never have been the wiser. Okay, but they called in. Half of the staff was on vacation. I was in a very big meeting. They actually got another team member to go Uber their way there to get them the battery. In the meantime, they kind of talked stuff with the client. They made him feel really well. And when I came out of my meeting, everything was set. I thought that was so much better than even just having a great shoot. That honesty, that part, and solving the problem, whoever creates it, doesn't matter, solving the problem made me so proud. I was so proud of that person.
You know, you bring up a really good point, because you know how you can judge the character of a human being? Not when things go well, but when things don't go well. Mm-hmm. What kind of person are they? Are they like, hey, Zev, I did what I could. Good luck solving this. Or do they think through and fight through adversity and figure out a way? In other words, one of my favorite ways of viewing it is find a way. There's always a way. And I've worked with some of the best leaders, and somehow they find a way. And they do that because they do that mindset, that skill set, and sustainment. But overall, they have that attitude and perspective that we are going to make things work.
And I'll tell you what, it transfers, because if you do that to your team, they start making things work. And then you're like, whoa, how did that happen? I love it, but I wasn't involved. This is so much fun. I think we should do this again, because you have 11 points that I love that I want you to share with everybody, but I think we filled out our entire time. So guys, follow Steven Gaffney.